الحمد لله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Imran, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أفغير دين الله يبغون وله أسلم له من في السماوات والأرض طوعا وكرها وإليه يرجعون. Some seek other than the religion of Allah, but the entire heavens and earth are subservient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether willingly or unwillingly, and unto Him they will be returned. This is verse 83 in Surah Al-Imran. So according to Islam and our scholars, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the universe to follow His laws based on this verse that I just read, and there are other verses also. And He created them to be subservient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But throughout the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals verses relating to different features of life and different modes of speech or commands or prohibitions and so on. And it has historically been the job of every scholar or expert or in the language or Arabic grammar or Arabic fiqh, or Islamic fiqh, the jurisprudence of Islam and its principles is based on in the Quran and the Sunnah to extrapolate the laws of what we call Islamic laws or Islamic Sharia. Of course, over here, you hear them because of their ignorance when they say the word Sharia, it's as if it's a monster or some. The translation of the word Sharia is law, is a path. So you cannot even say Sharia law because you're repeating the same word twice. When you say Sharia, it's either Christian Sharia or Jewish Sharia or secular Sharia or communist Sharia. It means law or Islamic Sharia. So our scholars extrapolate these laws from the Quran and the Sunnah. That's the general, and there are other methods also. والله سبحانه وتعالى tells الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام فلا وربك لا يؤمنون حتى يحكموك فيما شجر بينهم ثم لا يجدوا في أنفسهم حرجا مما قضيت ويسلموا تسليما. In Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 65, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, but nay, by the sustainer, they do not really believe unless they make you, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, a judge of all on which they disagree among themselves, and then find in their hearts no bar to an acceptance of the decision and give themselves up to it in utter self-surrender. But Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam is not with us today. How are we gonna use him to resolve disputes among us? We follow the Quran and the Sunnah. And that's how we do it, and that's how our scholars teach us to do it. So when I think I talked about it here one time, and then BMMasjid more, but the Islamic laws in general, it explains to us, or Islamic Sharia, it explains in general that the sovereignty is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and al-hukm lillah. Sovereignty is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the authority is to the people, meaning we elect our officials, we elect our Khalifa, we elect our local legislators, we elect our district attorneys, and so on and so forth. And Islam came with many great causes, and among the great, our objective, and among one of them is the public interest. Islamic political or Islamic politics, which the word for it in Arabic is siyasa, which comes from the verb sasa, meaning taking care of the affairs of people. Islamic politics revolve around this public interest. When we talk public interest, it doesn't mean Muslims only. It means everyone living in a county, in a country, in a community, in a district, whatever you want to call it, or in a country. So the Islamic laws in general revolves around public interest. Because the objective of Islam, as I mentioned last time, is happiness to all mankind, not only to Muslims. If they happen to convert to Islam, then they will have happiness in the day after also. But our objectives as Muslims is happiness to all mankind over here. And you notice Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, when he was in Mecca, after establishing and convincing people and trying to convince the Quraysh and the Arabs that of the oneness of Allah, he was also trying to establish the other public interest, which we will discuss what they are in a minute. And when he went to Medina, the first thing he did, that in Medina, not everybody was Muslim. There were some idol worshippers, there were some Christians, there were some Jews, some idol worshippers. They were still citizens of the city. So he established laws that revolve around this public interest of everyone living there. And this public, and we know, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam as rahmatan lil alameen, as mercy to our worlds. And he told them, I sent you to be just to all people. To people, he uses the word nas over here. So what are these public interests? These public interests is the preservation of life, the preservation of religion, the preservation of intellect or education, the preservation of honor, and the preservation of wealth, property. Any one of you over here who was not born here came to this country for these 5 public interests. Otherwise, you would have stayed back in your home country. There is no reason for you to be here if these 5 public interests are established in your home country. You came here because of this. Muslims went to Europe, to Australia, to the United States, to wherever they went, because they don't have one or two or all of them in our home Islamic countries. This is why we are here. In Islam, these public interests, or Islamic law, the Islamic fiqh terminology for it is al-masalih al-mursala. And in masalih al-mursala, which is public interest, there is a proof for it from the Quran and the Sunnah. And to save time, I'll just mention one ayah from the Quran. There are many ayat in the Quran to prove them. That the objective of Islam is the protection of these 5 public interests. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells the Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam in Surah An-Nisa, verse 105, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَا إِلَيْكَ الْكِتَابَ بِالْحَقِّ لِتَحْكُمَ بَيْنَ النَّاسِ بِمَا أَرَاكَ اللَّهُ وَلَا تَكُنْ لِلْخَائِنِينَ خَصِيمًا. Behold, we have bestowed upon you from the high, from the 7th heaven, this divine writing, the Quran, setting forth the truth. This is the truth, the Quran, so that you may judge between people. He did not say to judge between Muslims. He said to judge between people in accordance with what Allah has taught you. Hence, do not contend with those who are false in their trust. Okay, and how did the Rasul rule among all people? With these 5 public interests. Their rights of their whatever religion they choose, because there is no ikrah fi din. There is no compulsion in religion for us. Whoever wants to believe, believe, and whoever doesn't want to believe, don't believe. That's you read every Friday in Surah Al-Kahf. In a Sunnah, a quick summary, in one time when Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal to Yemen, and he told him, how you're going to rule among people. He told him from the Quran and the Sunnah. He said, well, suppose you don't find the answers in the Quran or Sunnah, how you going to rule? And he told him the key words, because he understood that Islam came, a religion of mercy and justice. Islam came to revolve on the Islamic politics, because he was the mayor or the governor of Yemen when he went there and teaching them. He understood that Islam came to protect these 5 public interests. So he said, in case I don't find the answers in the Quran or Sunnah, I shall do my best to form an opinion and spare no pains. So whatever decision he makes, it cannot be a painful or a hardship decision on the people. And of course, these public interests, they can't be against the ruling of the Quran or Sunnah. It has to be in accordance with the Quran and the Sunnah. And we notice, if you ask anybody from the happiest country in the world, and the happiest country in the world, the top 5 are Scandinavian countries. Very cold countries. Why are they so happy? They're so happy because, and I include from the top 10 Canada, they are so happy because these 5 public interests are very well preserved to every citizen in there, regardless of their race, color, or religion. And before I get into, and because of course, the 5 public interests, once you have it in any country, then you will have social justice, you will have financial justice, you will have judicial justice, and you will have political justice. And before I go into the subject, the reason behind me choosing the 5 public interests or the public interest is because even when we learn it, we need to teach it to non-Muslims, since we are at the getting close to elections. So you need to teach the people, because these 5 public interests, even though it's part of our religion, but it came for all mankind. So we can teach it to other people, whatever religion they follow, whatever beliefs they have. It doesn't matter, because these 5 public interests for the interest of all mankind. والله سبحانه وتعالى mentions in Surah Al-Baqarah, ولولا دفع الله الناس بعضهم ببعض لفسدت الأرض ولكن الله ذو فضل على العالمين. And if Allah had not enabled people to defend themselves against one another, if Allah does not send the good people to push away the evil people, corruption would surely overwhelm the earth. But Allah is limitless in His bounty unto the world. So we are only 1.1% of this country. The population of this country, the Muslims I'm saying, we are only 1.1% of the population. Even though the majority, overwhelming majority of us vote, but we are not effective. The Jews are 2.2% in this country. Look how influential and effective they are. No one can insult a Jewish person. There are laws against that. But if you want to be a famous politician, if you want to be a famous journalist, if you want to get rich, insult a Muslim and you will be famous. Okay, this is a fact, been here since after 2001, unfortunately. So one of the reasons we came here, or a lot of us, especially Arabs, this more for the Arabs rather than non-Arabs, a lot of the Arabs came here actually for the preservation of religion, because the tyrants are against religion, even if they are Muslims. So now it's becoming hard for us Muslims being here since 2001, and now it's getting even harder since 2016 because of after what happened to the Muslim ban. And how did that happen? Because of people don't vote. And because of people don't vote, one of our rights over here, our religious right, is gone away from us, surely and slowly but surely. And if we stay passive, and we are going to establish, because we are against aggression, and I'm coming to that in a minute. But if we stay passive, rather than following Sunnah Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam or being assertive, it's only going to get worse. It's not enough for us to go out there and vote to protect our God-given rights. We also have to go and teach it to others. These 5 preservation of life. I'm gonna only bring one story, and this is a true story with a good friend of mine. He's from Iran. He used to be working with me, and the 2 families became close. That his in-laws used to come. He takes care of his mother-in-law too. His in-laws used to come over here every year to visit their mothers. They're all elderly mother. And this year they couldn't because of the Muslim ban. The lady is in her 89, I believe. They had to drive all the way to Canada to meet her kids, to meet her daughters. Look at the hardship. And this is all because of the Muslim ban. That's aside from the expense they did. So when we don't vote, even though we did, but we did not. We are not influential and we are not effective. We need to be influential and effective. This is what happens. We pay the price. The second thing is the preservation of life. Is the preservation of life. We are against violence. We are not aggressive people. Even though you tell that, even though the non-Muslims, especially here, the media, the politicians, they portray us as evil people. They portray us as aggressors. They portray us as terrorists. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ ذَلِكُمْ وَصَّاكُمْ بِهِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. From the Quran, Allah tells us, do not slay the life which Allah has made sacred. He did not say Muslim life, He said life of everybody, even if he's an atheist or she's an atheist. You cannot slay an innocent life because every life is sacred to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I mentioned before, Allah referenced every servant of His as His servant, whether he believes in Him or not. So you cannot slay the innocent life. And this is why we are against violence. But we are also against being passive. We need to be like Rasulullah was, very assertive. Unfortunately, in this country, there are no respect to life. They portray themselves as they respect life, but there is no respect for life, because if they have respect for life, they would have gun laws. There is no gun laws. No, we know what happened in Newtown. Those of you who live in Brookfield and have kids in high school, we know what happened last year for the scare we had from one kid in social media threatening to go and kill Muslims and others in the school. That was last year, right? We know what happened in Florida. We know what happened in Louisville, and all that because there are no gun laws in these countries. And if we don't become influential and effective in teaching this to other people, that we respect life, we need to vote for people, for candidates who have respect and value life. Because any candidate, we are not against the Second Amendment of owning guns, but we want to regulate because to have gun control, because we value life. Any candidate who does not care about gun control, that means that candidate does not care about life. That means that's against our religion, because we do value life. Look what's happening to the environment. All these natural disasters. Look how late winter came to us. All this because the temperature of Earth went up 1.5 centigrade. And it's affecting our lives. It will not affect Earth. Earth will always be here until the day of judgment. But it will affect our lives. A lot of people dying with these natural disasters. Look what happened in Indonesia just a few days ago. How many Muslims died? Look what happened in Florida. How many natural disasters we've been having lately. And it's all because of humans don't care about environment. If we elect candidates that don't care about the environment, we are actually violating the second preservation of public interest, which is the preservation of life. Because if you don't care about the environment, that means you don't care about human life. Right? The same thing goes for Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. If you have people that don't care about this, look how many seniors we have here, and they need it. And we worked all our life. When you look at your paycheck, how much money you go take away from your Social Security or your Medicare, and then all of a sudden you don't deserve it, as if we have our hands out. We paid for it. This is our God-given right. And this is the God-given right for every senior in this country, because they paid for it. They worked for it. So when you have people or candidates that they say they don't care about it, they want to take it away. Why you want to take it away? They paid for it. You are thieves. And if you go for candidates like that, that means you are violating the second preservation of life, because that can endanger people's lives. And we are for life. The third thing is the preservation of intellect or education. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Ankabut tells the Rasul to tell humans, قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَانْظُرُوا كَيْفَ بَدَأَ الْخَلْقِ. Surah Al-Ankabut chapter 29 verse 20. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to walk the earth and discover how creation was started. So He wants us to get into education. And we know from Sirat al-Rasul, the biography of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, he was into education. And we know from the golden eras of Muslims that every foundation of science that we have today is because of Muslim scientists. Because Islam came for the preservation of education. When I came to this country, my father, may Allah extend his life, was able, back in those days, to put 4 of us in the university at the same time, one after another. And it came a point where 4 of us in the university at the same time. Who over here is able to put his kids, 4 kids, at the same time in the university? And the tuitions these days went up like maybe 13 times more than when I was in the university. The education in this country is becoming a privilege to the rich. So we need to be careful when we choose, when we advocate the rights of education, we want it to be affordable. If it's not free, at least make it affordable, where we can put our kids at the same time in school. And you will get some Muslim fanatics saying, oh, you can't take Muslim loans because it has interest in these things and we are against interest. Yeah, okay, well, that means my kids cannot go to school. I cannot put 4 kids at the same time in school. They might end up taking a loan. So that means they cannot get educated? That's a question to ask a Mufti. The 4th preservation of public interest is the preservation of honor. We see what's happening to the Muslims, especially today to us. And it's not only us being insulted, but I'm going to focus on the Muslims. We were just told last Sunday in our Sunday gathering, one of the Muslim, one of the brothers was at Aldi's with his teenage daughter. Aldi's is here in New Milford. And one elderly evil woman goes and tells his daughter, because she's covered up, go back to your country. And she's born and raised here. And she has an accent. All right? If we don't stand up to ourselves and be assertive, if we decide to be cowards, if we decide to stay passive, if we decide to stay self-defeated, dishonoring our wives, our women, our mothers, our daughters will continue. All right? Unless you do something, getting involved to protect the honor of our women. They don't even care about the honor of their own women, and we heard in the news how they treat their own women these days. Do you think they're gonna care about our women? They are not gonna care about our women. They demonize their women. They berate them. They say words against their women. What do you think they're gonna say? We know what happened in New York, maybe last year or the year before. Did they care that woman or that imam was from Bangladesh? They don't even know where Bangladesh is. Okay? They killed them because they were Muslims. And like I mentioned before, you see how much politicians, how much in the news, how much they dishonor the Muslims. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us and mentioned that He created all humans to be honored. There is no right for any other human being just because they are different colors than us or different eyes than us to dishonor us just because of our beliefs and dishonor our women. And the last thing is the preservation of wealth or property. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear in Surah Al-Hashr that the origin of wealth in Islam is not to stay among the rich. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, ما أفاء الله على رسوله من أهل القرى فلله وللرسول وذي القربى واليتامى والمساكين وابن السبيل كي لا يكون دولة بين الأغنياء منكم. Whatever Allah has restored to His messenger from people of the towns, it is for Allah and the messenger and for the kin and the orphans and the needy and the wayfarer, so that it may not be a thing taken by turns among the rich of you. So in another word, the money is not supposed to be only from among the rich. It has to trickle down. Okay? We do not have our hands out to take money from the rich. We don't beg anybody, right? But the problem, Islam recommends to have the 3 classes. We like to have the poor, the middle class, and the rich. We like to teach the poor. We don't gonna give the poor unless those who are disabled. We like to teach the poor how to fish, and we like to educate them. This is the origin of Islam. But the way things happening over here all of a sudden, and this is especially evident from after 2014, if not from 2008. I'm sorry. The gap between in wealth, the gap between the CEOs and the employees, the unequal way pay between men and women. Women can do the same job as men, but men get paid more because they are men. You got teachers. We are lucky over here in Connecticut and New York, teachers get paid pretty well. But you got teachers in other states, they cannot afford working, making a living on the salary they make. Some of them, they even, and we saw them in their demonstrations, sometimes they don't even eat because they don't have enough money, because they don't make enough salary. All right. So in Islam, what he's talking about is distribution, not equal distribution, but at least not to make the money and the wealth of the country is among the top 1%, and the rest of the country don't have enough to live on. Okay. So when we talk about elections that's coming up, we need to talk about candidates who care about the distribution of wealth correctly. We don't have our hands out, but at least believe in increasing minimum wage and giving the correct salaries to people in the correct position. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم.